Hello and welcome. In this video we'll take a close look at the Scrum Development Framework, its components and rules of operation. But before we start, we want to make clear that the official or standard Scrum framework we're going to see is not the goal for achieving agility, but the starting point. Following the Japanese concept Shu Ha Ri, which shows the path of learning through stages, from the first steps or Shu to the mastering or Ri. This official framework is the Shu stage. It's what we call technical Scrum, which serves to learn to ride the agility bike without losing balance. In the same way that the knowledge of the language and its grammar is the starting point to become a writer, the knowledge of agile practices and frames is necessary for those who want to be agile. But when learning the techniques, we should keep in mind that just as literature is not achieved only by applying the grammatical rules, the agility is not achieved only by using agile practices either. Taking into account this premise, the technical Scrum framework is perfect to start with and is composed of roles, artifacts, and events. Scrum classifies people involved in development into 4 roles. Product owner. This is the person responsible for the product or service to be developed. This is a single person, committed and involved with the development team. Development team, formed by the people who make the product or service. Scrum Master. This is a facilitator role. It designates the person responsible for achieving the smooth operation of Scrum in the organization. These 3 roles make up what's called the Scrum Team. They are the committed roles to produce results in an iterative and incremental way. The 4th role comprises people who, without being committed, are involved in one way or another with the project and can provide relevant information to the Scrum team. They are the interested. It's the role that includes the rest of the people, such as users, commercials, or anyone involved in the product in one way or another. The artifacts are the key pieces of Scrum. On one hand, there are 2 employees to manage the requirements, the product backlog and the sprint backlog, and on the other hand, the increment, which is the name of each of the deliveries that are continuously produced. The events or ceremonies. These are the milestones that make the necessary workflow and communication possible. The sprint planning meeting. The sprint, which is each of the cycles that produce a delivery or increase. The daily Scrum, or brief daily team meeting. The sprint review, in which the team presents the increment to all parties involved. And the retrospective, which serves to analyze and improve the way of doing Scrum. And in this diagram we can see how Scrum works. It starts with the planning of the sprint, in which the team determines the part of the product backlog that will bring the most value to the customer. It can be done in a sprint at the same time. This way, it selects the stories from the product backlog that are to be developed first, and with them it determines the list of tasks that will form the sprint backlog. This is when the sprint begins, which usually lasts 1 or 2 weeks. During this time, the team performs the tasks on the sprint backlog, making a brief situation point each day to check progress and detect possible impediments. Once the sprint is over, the team presents and delivers the increment. This cycle is repeated over and over again, thus producing the continuous and frequent deliveries typical of Scrum. At the end of the sprint, the team discusses in a retrospective meeting how to improve the guidelines and working practices.